My name is Richard McCarthy, and I direct a New Orleans-based NGO called Market Umbrella. We cultivate the field of public markets for public good. We do that here in New Orleans, as well as we're interested in the global reinvention of this traditional ancient mechanism of public markets. Though locally we're mostly known for our flagship at home, the Crescent City Farmers Market, where our work began a good decade before Hurricane Katrina. And indeed, we, like everyone else, found ourselves in 2005 knee-deep in crisis. And crisis has given us many teachable moments, one of which I'd like to share with you. And it does speak to a rather closely guarded secret about farmers markets. I know that when you think of farmers markets, images of heirloom fruits and vegetables, exotic wild mushrooms, artisan breads, that's what comes to mind. In fact, what also may come to mind is expensive product. In fact, what we're finding is that actually that's not the case. But those are sort of the images that come to mind. And indeed, they are important ingredients for what makes this a delicious, quiet revolution, this reinvention of markets. But really, much more important than the food is that farmers markets are really about people. That's really their great strength. Their endurance is that they engineer unique social relations between people, diverse people. When you think about it, and you walk into a grocery store, and we all do, you know, not to knock them, we need them. We need our washing detergent, and we need to go in. You go into the grocery store, your hope is that you'll have maybe one transaction, one social transaction with someone. Usually revolves around paper or plastic, as you see the array of checkout counters that you have. Mind you, only half of them are open, but there's one checkout counter you will go through, and you will have one transaction. By contrast, when you sort of walk onto the campus of a farmer's market, you have a multitude of choices in front of you, multitude of transactions. If you want to buy mushrooms, you go to the mushroom man and you discuss mushrooms. If you want to get pies, you want to hug the pie lady and have a conversation about, well, when is she going to make couchon pies? That's a very different experience, which means you walk away with new social relationships with people you may not have otherwise known. You talk to people in the queue with you whom you may not have known. And you walk away with and accrue intellectual capital, not only about what's in season, but the conversations about the strawberry lady. How are they doing this winter? Are you going to be able to make it through the freezes? This helps to build new social bonds. They're not tight bonds. They're not ones necessarily you're going to go on vacation with folks, but they're the weak social ties that when you think about the period of isolation, period of crisis, that's what we craved, was those social ties. And I think what we think of it in terms of what markets are able to do is to begin to restitch the social fabric, the social contract. When you think about a farmer or a fisherman who physically stands behind the quality of the product that they're selling, physically stands behind it, compare that to the bureaucracies that we face, where they're faceless, there's no answer. So what we found after Katrina, when we feverishly tried to reestablish our farmers markets 10 weeks after the storm, we felt like losers that it had taken us so long to get back up and running. We now look back on it and realize, my God, what were we thinking? We could get up and running 10 weeks after the storm before most people had moved back. What we found was that the market itself had become a very different kind of institution after folks were in isolation. People wanted to reconnect. And therefore, we erected our tent, the Office of Homeland Serenity. It was a FEMA-free zone. It was a place where you could come sit down, get a chair massage, listen to chamber music or brass band. It was also a place where you could hug and cry and connect with people. And I think that what we've seen in the last 5 years when we've been sharing our experiences with other farmers market organizers from around the world is that these markets are becoming really important institutions in communities far and wide. In the Brazilian Amazon, in the Amazon rainforest, deforestation and rapid social change where farmers are getting chased off their land or winding up in city centers are flocking to farmers markets because that's where they find out gossip from home, information about where they can find a job. These become safe havens. Similarly, in Los Angeles, in this amazing network of markets in Hollywood and in some very challenging, dangerous neighborhoods where there's vast demographic change with new immigrants coming in, the markets themselves are defined as the safe havens, not only for access to fresh fruits and vegetables through incentive programs, but also as places where they begin to accrue information. And I think that our lessons after Katrina, and I guess it would be what we would share to other communities that are navigating their way out of crisis, is long before you can rebuild bricks and mortar, you can pitch tents and umbrellas and begin to, and this is what language we heard from our community of farmers and fishermen and shoppers after the storm, was I began to feel normal again. I began to feel a sense of normalcy where I move out of this state of shock and crisis and that of a victim and begin to make choices again. And this is where markets, because of the way we engineer so many different transactions, you enter into this campus where you begin to make choices. And I know they're rather banal choices about whether, to go with soft-shell crabs or hard-shell crabs, but those choices begin to reprogram us into taking control over our futures, which of course is the most important thing after crisis, is we don't want people to just be in that mode of being a victim. We want to be active participants who write our own history. So that would be what we have learned from our use of farmers markets, which I usually walk around with these, which also results in us developing our own regional economy. What comes next is developing our own money, our wooden coins, that become our currency for expressing the social contract, for expressing solidarity, where these coins enable food stamp shoppers to shop at market. Incentives lure them there, and from the surplus on the coins that we as the market engineer, this currency that has grown to over $300,000 a year of wooden coins, that means that money and wealth circulate locally, so we've been able to develop a sort of a giving circle, cross between microfinance and alternative philanthropy. Well, this kind of innovation is bearing root in farmers markets all over the country and all over the world as we reinvent these very light, nimble institutions that may not fight the large industrial grid when it comes to scale, but I don't think that's their point. Their point is that they engineer social relationships that help to navigate through troubled waters into new, brighter, fresher, greener futures. And that's all I've got. Thanks so much.